When's the last time your teeth, your tongue has tasted real flavor? When's the last time your wife, your girlfriend, your husband gave you a real smile, a true smile and a true hug? You're living in an artificial grafted world, boys and girls. When's the last time you heard a real instrument? Interesting and play. Even more interesting, to play drums in America is still outlawed. To play drums in the open without permission is still outlawed. There's a trillion things to be outlawed, but playing drums in the open is still outlawed. Peace.
Now you listen to me.
I was to ask you who was Tupac Amaru. Okay, Tupac Amaru was a Aztec. Actually, he was Aztec, or I think Olmec, but he was an indigenous person of this land in Mexico who fought against the Spanish conquistadors for his freedom. That's where Tupac got his name from. That's where his mother got his name from. But you see my point? Anything that goes back to who you were before colonization, that shit is strict. And so everything that we have been learning from the standpoint of the person who conquered. So therefore, the original people always are going to have a very cloudy, misstrued view of themselves walking on the planet. The same way when I talk about Africans, Moorish people, which is all us included, right? They say how violent we are, and the thieving and the stealing and the robbing and the killing, and Lord knows you turn on the television and that's the report every morning, right? But if I was to ask you about your behavior, your psychology, and your spiritual principles before this incarnation in this land, and your original state of being and how you lived, to even put your hand on a child will have you what? Murder, right? If I was to ask you about being a thief, the penalty for thievery in your ancient African homeland and in your African construct of consciousness, it don't even relate to you. Such a behavior is implausible. You wouldn't even think about doing the things that you do. So where did this characteristic and this principle of behavior came from? It didn't come from you. It's not your genetic practice. Like for a long time, suicide. Suicide is growing among people of color, right? You notice, check the reports. Psychologically, suicide is growing to become the practice of suicide is starting to increase among people of color. But before, at one point, that wasn't a major thing. We did other stuff, but that wasn't something that we did. But now, as time goes on and circumstances in the society change, it's starting to grow. There's a reason for that also. That's going into the roots of suicide, why people want to do that to themselves. Which it goes back to psychotrauma. So a lot of beliefs we have about ourselves as Africans, original people, indigenous people, Olmecs, right? That's us too. Come from somebody else. So even when it comes down to the idea of God and how things were created, right? Because all of this is based on spirituality. See, people would say this is not a spiritual, it's not a spiritual thing. Our captivity, our behaviors, our belief systems came down by way of European spiritual colonization from the Catholic Church. And the people who ratified us being put in shackles, the people who ratified and said it was okay to go to Mexico and destroy whole tribes of people, it was alright to go to Colombia and destroy whole tribes of people, the Catholic Church gave the sanction for that. They put that shit in canon law. So if there was progress in canon law for us to be put into servitude and slavery, then damn right, this is a spiritual dilemma. That's why you got a lot of black millionaires, a lot of people of color are millionaires, right? Millionaires. See anything happening different for us? Because until the heart of a man changes, until the heart of a woman changes, and damn, it don't mean nothing. You can be as successful as you want to be, but you'll only be successful in the construct that was created by somebody else. So you're really not successful. Are you catching what I'm saying? If you can't interpret life for yourself, you're not successful. So, to keep it on track, trauma is any accident or incident that happens that causes memory loss. And most of the trauma that has happened to people around the world has been done through physical force. Okay? Write this down. Right now, if you got a pen, or if you hear it, one of the scriptures we're going to pull out. And I use this, like I said, I use this book for a reason. And I'll get into that in a minute. Romans chapter 12, verse 2. We're also going to go into the book of Acts. Shifting of consciousness and the solution. The healing of African psychotrauma. Because I'm about to erase this and do some work now. We're going to do some word games. Okay? Last week I said this, and you might want to write this down. In order to break a spell, you know, there's people that says we are living in a spell. Well, the word spell has three meanings. A spell is anything that you speak that creates an internal-external atmosphere. A spell is a duration of time. Are you with me? A spell is a duration of time. When someone is doing something over a certain period of time, you get caught up in the rhythm of time, and eventually you get locked into that rhythm. Okay? Even the way a man or woman speaks, particularly a speaker, a preacher, right? A preacher has a certain rhythm and tone and color to the way they speak. That is also knowing how to enact spells. And to spit forth, spells, to spit. Okay? You know, say, brother, come up there, I'm gonna spit on it. Yo, you ready to spit that joint, man? Right? I'm hip hop too, right? So you about to spit that, right? Spell. In the old German language, spill or spit, to speak forward, to push forward out of the mouth. So, in the scriptures we know that at the tip of the tongue lives, y'all know this one, come on. At the tip of the tongue lives life and death. Okay? So, we got this written down. If y'all wrote it or y'all got it, cool. Keep this in mind about trauma. Because one of the things that have been found scientifically and psychologically, and you can write down misleading memories. I got a lot of stuff always. Everything I say is keywords. I mean, you can go on the computer, push it in a whole document. Misleading memories. There's an actual report of people who have surgical experiments done on them. And after the hypnosis and the actual experiment has been done, they have put whole new memories and ideas in people's heads. And the shit never was real. And if you try to tell the person who have had this experiment done on them that what you believe in and what you're saying is not real, they will fight you down. And they will hurt you. If you tell them that what you are believing in after this experiment is not real, they will kill you. It's in a movie. It's in Flowers. Yeah, Manchurian Candidate, Flowers for Algernon. You can go on, there's thousands of them. Thank you. Manchurian Candidate is one of the best ones. Thank you. I try not to go to Manchurian Candidate because it deals with the president. I like to try to deal with it. But it's cool. Hey, that won't work. Thank you. You can't tell them that this shit ain't real. It will fight you. I was talking about this morning with a young brother. He came in, he was talking with me. And I showed him something in the scriptures, and I said, you know, the Garden of Eden starts in Africa, and it's right in the Bible. He says, huh? I said, right there. He said, that ain't true. I said, brother, right there is a geographical point. It's a geographical fact. That ain't true. I said, what makes you think it's not true? I'll show it to you. The more I tried to show it to him, the more he fought. And I said, you know what? It has nothing to do with anything about a belief. You have something internal inside of you that is pointed against the continent that you come from. That's why you can't accept it. Had nothing to do with what was written, has nothing to do with a fact. It's just the reality that we as a people of color have something inside of us that is bent on not wanting to look back into our indigenous self before Europeans programmed you to believe some shit. And believe me, there's tons of European people. I know I have friends in all walks of life. They don't believe in the shit. They don't even believe in it, but they got thousands of people through miseducation to believe in it. So I just want to make sure, so when I start going over certain stories and I start showing you certain archaeological facts, you don't start shivering, start shaking like, you're going to go to hell. That's the first thing come out of my mouth, you're going to go to hell. said, shit, life on earth is already about hell for me. I already was told I was cursed by God from nature, so I mean, shit, how much more hell can you get? Dominica, Jamaica, South America, or the Americas. North America, Canada, wherever we are in the world, Africa included, Asia included, anywhere in the world, where there's been colonized people. In their colonization, the first thing that they had to be taught, I'm talking about Native, and in fact I have a story of Native American people. We are Native Americans, every last one of us, and when you say Native American, that means we were here before there was any such institutions, right? Those people were always instructed to give up their organic ethnicity to go along with the enslavers' belief system and behavior. So anytime someone brings up anything before AD, right? Another code word, that's a code. Did we go over this? Okay. So these terms, remember the language you're using is coded. And because you are, and you've been over this, those who were here last week, don't say nothing. Because for those who just came, this is going to be a flip for them. Anything that's outside of the span of the program of the writing, automatically your brain going to shut off. Watch this, and I want the people out there to get this one. Somebody tell me, elder sister, tell me what year it is. Don't think, just give me straight what the year is. Don't even go into it. 2014. 2014 what? Say it. Say it, come on, give that abbreviation. Come on, y'all, do what you was taught in school. Because see, the first thing they teach us is to stop being an addict to the bullshit. I told you, I talk straight rap. I like teaching, this is the way I like to teach because I don't want to place myself somewhere out there. Wisdom is as natural as water flowing and air blowing across your skin. It don't take much. Just a question. 2014 what? Come on, say it. AD, thank you. First thing, I will admit that I am an addict. And I need help. So the first thing meaning, I'm going to admit to myself what they gave me. So I'm going to write down what he said. Now, choose somebody new. What's your name, brother?
Mark.
Mark?
Mark.
Mark. What does AD mean?
After death.
See? Thank you. I was waiting for that. See, this in itself right here, that in itself right there should make you wonder. Don't say nothing, okay? Please don't say nothing. That is a problem. Because that's not what that term means. But it's not your fault. Because we had people repeat that crap to us since we were children. And this is what I mean by colonizing education. In our education, though, at the same time, they gave us a key. They say, you always are supposed to define the words you use, correct? Correct? Chorus rect? Okay, so in Latin, because this is a Latin abbreviation on your what is that? When you get your diploma and you get your degree paper and you put it on your wall and you're so proud, right? It says A-N-N-O. That is Latin for año, right? You speak Spanish and Latin, so you know año means what? Year. See, I love this. And he speaks a Latin-based language, so we know we're going to get this right. So D is domino. What does domino mean? Come on, use the root word. Domino. Dominate, yeah. It's just really that basic. So it's the year of our domination. What in the universe does that have to do with anybody named Christ? It don't say nothing about anybody named Jesus. It says year of domination. But we walking around here talking about after the death. Okay, so you said Christ, after the death of Christ, right? To show you how bad what happens when someone manipulates your natural mind with fear that you're going to go to some place and burn. You already burning. Shit. Anytime you hate yourself, you burning already. You might as well jump in the lake. Get some soap while you're at it. That shit you might blow up. Anyway. Right? So I asked him this question. What year was Jesus born? Don't say nothing if you've been here. Come on, somebody give it to me. This is comical. I love this. This is how you know manipulation of space, environment, and time. What year was Jesus born? See? Huh?
35 BC.
35 B. Oh, now you said BC. So what does BC stand for? That is before Christ. But you never told me what year he was born. See? Basic logic. Basic is not nothing wrong. You said nothing wrong at all. Basic logic. What year was this character born? And I'm not trying to take anybody's faith from them. This is basic logical questions. They say year zero, don't they? Don't they say year zero? Tell the truth. Yes or no? They say it's year zero. So if it's year zero, then you have no time factor. Because there's no such thing as a year zero. So already you know you're living in a what? Artificial time structure. They had to take you and put you in an artificial time structure. And by doing that, it will keep you from being able to find yourself. Because if you don't know your ancestry, because all nations pull their power from their roots, correct? But if you can't find your roots, and I make you hate your roots, then you will remain what? Powerless. All powerful groups of people on the earth have a powerful sense of nationhood, nationality. They have a powerful sense of their ethnicity, and they will brag about it. They will tell you how many centuries their people ruled and where they ruled and how they're going to rule again. Don't they say this? And they dare you to try to say something against their ethnicity, right? But can you find yours? You see? We got some issues. And we don't know why we got them. We just got them. And a lot of that comes from the conditions we have been put in. The rape, okay, we're going to go into that. Now we're going to go into the next part. So we're clear on this. So since you already know you've been given an artificial time, that means basically we can deduce that we've been dealing with artificial memories. Because you already was calibrating life around the death and the life of a person that you cannot give me the year on. So that shit, excuse my language, is debunked. Oh, what's wrong? Can't be mathematical now? Is there something wrong with your mathematics? You can't be logistical now. I did tell you there, Watson, it doesn't make sense. See, we can use logic, and when it comes to money, though, we use logic. If we commit a crime, we know we use some real good logic real quick, don't we? But when it's time to question the basis of reality, everybody gets real quiet. Let me tell you where that comes from. And I'm gonna read a story to you to show you where that comes from. But let's take our time. We're gonna keep dealing with this trauma. Show you little bits of how this trauma works. Let's look at what happened to everybody that was ever colonized. If they entered your country, they did not enter your country, the land you lived in, as a slave catcher first. No. No one ever walked into anybody's land saying that they was going to imprison them and enslave them or put them in captivity. They first study you. They study the groups of people. This doesn't matter. No, nationality is not even an issue. We're just going to talk tactics of war. First thing is you study the opponent. Study the rhythm, the psychology, the mind state, belief systems, feelings, and environment of the opponent. Bank on weakness of the opponent. Once they know the weakness, profit from that weakness. Okay? Profit from the weakness. You know that there's a group of people, there's two different nations, they are both related, but for some odd reason they got some type of social ill with each other living in these territories. They might be 100 to 200, 300 miles separated from each other. Enough distance that they don't have to constantly see each other. Right? But you know they got some issues with each other. Now, right here, this is where it gets very militaristic. That's why I said I have to show you how this thing worked, how it was done. Because see, we always complain about, oh, y'all never get outside of that. No, we got to talk about how this happened. Because once you know how it happened, then you can begin to reverse the process. Once you are taken into a new environment or another environment, enclosed in, your family or whoever you were taken with, whether it was on a ship, whether it was through an invasion, once they take that environment and close you in, then the violence, the psychic trauma, this is where the psychic trauma come in, then the violence is inflicted upon the victim or victims. And these victims, once this violence is placed on them, the person is given a command through the violence. I need a person. Let's see. Come on up. We did this last time. I guess we got to do it again. Because we always wanted to know, how did we lose our memory? What happened to us that caused this confused, melanated being on the planet, right? Stand right here for me. Once the victim, the prisoner of war, is captured, he or she, they, are inflicted with pain. Boom. Constantly. And the infliction of pain in this enclosed environment. There are commands given while the pain is being inflicted. If the pain is to stop, the victim, the prisoner, must succumb to the commands of the person inflicting the pain. So the first command is, they can't stop speaking their language. And because they can speak a language, they know something and they can communicate something that we can't control. So since they can command and speak in a way, in a style that we can't control, right? First thing we got to do is we got to open their mouths up. So we open those mouths. And this is where you can see some of the old pictures of some of our ancestors' mouths being wiped open, right? And a metal bit or a wood bit forced into the mouth. That is to cause the person pain for every time they would try to scream or holler or speak. If we didn't want to eat, we tried to force ourselves not to eat to escape the pain. We'd rather die to be in slavery, right? They will have another device to force your mouth open, to force food down. And particularly food that you're not accustomed to. So because you know as soon as you eat it, you're going to do what? Spit up. Because you don't come from a place that eats this filthy type of diet. This is some gruel that they gave you. So they force feed you. And each time this happens, until you succumb to the behaviors and actions and thinking patterns that the enslaver wants, the pain will continue. So then they start giving commands. Stop, or he's going to keep going. Sounds familiar? You either stop or I'm going to keep inflicting this pain. So that's, you begin to go along with the command. A natural thing, any natural person would do it. It does not show weakness, it actually shows intelligence. Okay? Another part happens, not only with the language is taken, but then another command is given. If you don't believe or act or speak the way that I want you to speak, you will be punished and murdered. So what happens is the population of people that's going through it begin to change. You sit that down. The next one is, thank you, give him a hand. Thank you. The next thing that happens is another technique. You can take that shit, brother. The next thing that happens is there's another technique in psychic trauma. And I don't want you to be very mindful of this. It's to make a person watch it happen. Okay, I'll give you an example. In mind control techniques, take the children and make them watch the elders and their parents be brutalized, or let them watch other children be brutalized and murdered. Once the children, the women watch it, that goes into the woman, of course, you know that naturally, and if she's pregnant, it goes directly into her fetus. Right, so you know that one. But the other one is just the children that are already present. They watch it. So they fall right in line with the same program. And if you don't believe and act and work the way I want you to, this is what's going to happen. So automatically we are living under, not under a natural state of consciousness with our belief systems. We're living under fear. And God don't need your fear. Nature don't need you to fear nothing. Nature already has your fear because nature created it inside of you. And it's not called fear, it's called caution. If I'm about to throw this at him at his chest, his natural instinct is to catch it. Right? That's not fear, that's called what? Caution. It's called protection. It's a big difference. Fear is something that's implanted that has no intelligence of your own. It takes away from your natural intelligence. Are y'all following me? So when we as a people start having someone come to us and say, hey brother, you know how beautiful you are, black man, you know how beautiful you are, black sister, right? And you start giving this to the population, a population already programmed not to have any type of inkling or memory of their former greatness, you're gonna have some rejection. This is the part in our, I guess I would say, in our growth as people, trying to help humanity grow and learn, is that we have to comprehend psychological operations. I am not trying to remind people of slavery. No. What I'm really trying to show you is how this was done and why it's so hard to break it. And what needs to be done, possibly, to change it. So they make the children view it. Now, remember, psychological warfare happens on many levels. The eyes are the windows to the... Come on, y'all know this one. The eye is the window to the soul. So if you're making little children witness this trauma over and over again, they'll naturally, automatically just walk straight in line with everything else. Now that I have you in trauma, remember what I said earlier, that trauma, in the case of trauma, you can implant false ideas into the mind of the person who has gone through this traumatic event, right? I can implant a false memory. So the next thing I do, once I took the language, that means I took your mind, because you think through your what? You think through your language. You think through your native tongue. That's why we have the word logos. That's a Greek word. It doesn't just mean to study. Ology. Logos also means thought. The word logos means mind, and it also stands for word. So once I shift the language that you speak, I take it from you. You no longer have your natural state of mind, or at least you don't have it in the forefront of your consciousness. Your natural state of mind has been pushed into your subconscious structure, your subconscious memory. It's all the way back there. That's why black people love playing music so much. Because music was one of the things that survived the psychic trauma. That's why we're so good at music. Because music is one of those things that as long as you can make a sound, you're alive, right? So music is one of those things that survived. Our rain dance survived. Some of our languages did survive for those who can remember. But for the most part, a lot of the language left, but the music stayed around. And that's why our black people's music, people of color's music across the planet is so powerful, because it's the indigenous ancient sound that they're still making, but only one problem, I'm speaking English. So that's why rap music is whipping everybody's ass. The most popular, most powerful music being created and has the most money generating in the black community. Check? Some of that money need to come home. Anyway, so, y'all get my point. So the children are witnessing this. So now they take in these false ideas. We all living on it. But every once in a while something happens. Can I erase this? New word. Remember I said everything I write is a coded, it's a codes. Everything I write is codes in my speech and in my subjects. That way you can go back and get the information. I'm making up for 6,000 to 10,000 years of time in 2 to 3 hours. Please bear with me. All right. Now, there's two things that happens when trauma comes about. Like for instance, as a child I was hit by a car, right? Me and my cousin, we got hit, pop. We was real small, like 9 years old. And I flew under another car and I hit my head, bang. Right? And my head was busted right down in Logan, right in this neighborhood, right? And I got up. I pulled myself up. You imagine this little teeny guy, he just pulled himself up. Blood running, and I wasn't even crying. I remember it like yesterday. And I just went about like it was nothing, waiting for the ambulance, and I just got up and was walking around. And everybody's like, he in shock. He must not realize that it's happened to him yet. And part of me was in shock, because I was just like, okay. Because as a child, I was always taught to always disassociate from pain. And this is one of the things that go on with psychotrauma. Bear with me. It's called disassociation or dissociative identity. If anybody, when I was in school, one of the things I studied was psychology and behavior health. I was a TSS worker also, meaning I worked with children that were in need, children that needed help in the schools. That's what I did, right? So yeah, I got a background in studying behavior health. Dissociative, there it is. Excuse my spelling if it's off. Dissociative identity. What happens is sometimes when you're put into a traumatic experience, you disassociate from the pain you're feeling. You ever had that happen? Like if something happens, you begin to disassociate from the pain that's going on inside? Okay, well, we as a people begin to create a dissociative identity. We went through a certain level of pain, and as we went through a certain level of pain, we begin to disassociate from the pain that was happening. So we went into a certain state, we went into a transcendental state. We fell asleep. And sometimes even if you're in pain, if the body goes through enough trauma or shock, the body goes into what? You want to go to what? Sleep. You go to sleep to take away from the pain. Sometimes it can be mental pain. When that pain comes, you begin to separate your mind from what's happening. Right? Somebody hurting you, and all of a sudden the person passes out. The passing out is not a weakness. Let me tell you what that really is. On a biological level, when the person passes out, the reason why they pass out is because they're trying to escape the pain of what's going on. Are you with me? This is why people pass out in those traumatic experiences, those traumatic episodes. In your subconscious mind, there are still things living. Beliefs, ideas, and abilities are still resonating inside of indigenous people, African people. Your ancestors did something very special. Your Native American ancestors, your African ancestors, those born here, those that came from other lands, did something very powerful. I'll show you what they did. They took this book and they used the stories in the book as codes. They created certain types of music and spirituals to hide or to say what they could not say out loud. They did certain forms of music and played certain music, certain songs, created certain songs so that they can log what was happening to them at the time. Okay? And the children that they passed on the songs and the symbols to remembered the symbols. However, here's what happens. If you don't remember what the meaning of the symbols and the stories are, then what happens, they get lost through time, so it becomes a tradition. So we just now have a whole bunch of traditions we believe in, but we forgot what the symbols meant. Has nothing else to do with nobody else. It ain't about hating no white people, it ain't about hating anybody. I'm not pushing that. Anybody can come in here. I want anybody from any walk of life. When I talk and I speak, I want you to know the main thing is to accept the beauty and power of self. That is the key. European people go through this because how many white women got thrown over into the Thames River? All because a group of European homosexuals wanted to run the whole damn society. So they had to deem these women who had a certain knowledge of nature, who knew how to talk with the elements, right? Who learned about alchemy, who you later on call witches, right? Create a whole philosophy on murdering and killing women and children. throwing them into the water. If you tie her legs up and her arms and she floats, she must be a witch. Where was the? I don't know too many people gonna float with their hands and their legs tied together. I don't know who gonna float. You know anybody gonna float? There was a lot of people that was thrown into the bottom of the ocean just because they didn't want somebody else to think outside of the box that they laid down through war and colonization. The failure of a people is not accepting their own power. Again, I said it has nothing to do with hatred of anybody else. I want to make that clear to everybody. It's just a matter of us loving ourselves. Trance. You gotta go back. Trance is the subconscious realm. Trance is the place of the mother goddess. Trance is the place of sleep where dreams live. And where dreams live is where creation begins. Because all life is a product of what? Say it loud. All creation is a product of thought. All creation and all life is a product of consciousness. Visualization. Right? And I'm not just talking about with these eyes. You can be blind and not see and still see. All life is a product of visualization of thought. So therefore, you go into that subconscious mind, you're going to find an answer. I want to read something. Can I read, family? I hope I'm not going to take too long. This is a book. It's for sale here. The book the church doesn't want you to read. I know I'm in trouble now. I don't believe I'm a Native American. I don't give a damn. And I'm reading this for my Native American ancestors. I'm a Seminole, and I know I'm a Seminole. My ancestors come from Florida and North Carolina. So I am an African straight up. Seminole, meaning the African Native American tribes that intermingled and fought against the United States government. I have no problem saying it. And I'm not here telling you to fight against the government. My point is that I know I'm powerful. My bloodline is powerful. Yours is. So accept it. Right? And I got the right to question this. Because, and I like this to go on camera. Catch this on camera, because I'll say this to the world. If America is to be successful, if America and any group of people on the planet is to be successful, the people must be psychologically and spiritually healed from their captivity and colonization. As long as self-hatred permeates in the mind of people of color and people in general, particularly melanated people, there will be no success in America or anywhere else on the planet. And that's that. The reason why we cannot stand up as a group of people in this country and be successful is because the people are sick. Straight up. When you don't love yourself, that's a sign of what? Sickness. When you say, get out of my face with that African shit, that's a sickness. When you let somebody teach you that you cursed by God, it's a sickness. And for us to actually accept it and not say nothing about it, and let people keep saying it to our babies, to keep making movies, and we sit there and watch these movies, and pay money to go to the box office to see them actually insult your intelligence, it's a sickness. So the only way you fight a sickness like that is you get back into yourself and love yourself. And do away with that negativity. And you come to find out there's a lot of people in all walks of life that'll be waiting for you. You know, it was a statement in the Supreme Wisdom. It says, you know, he says, what's the duty of the civilized? It's teaching the Supreme Wisdom and Alhamdulillah's mom. He said, what's the duty of the civilized? The duty of the civilized is to civilize the uncivilized. To teach the sciences of life, which is peace, love, and happiness, and friends in all walks of what? Life. The minute you accept yourself, then the whole world will be able to walk with you and shine with you. And I ain't talking about race. Everybody will be with you when you be with yourself. And that's real. And I found that out the hard way. Well, not the hard way, but I found that out through a long journey. Let me give you like a quick story. I'm a drummer. I'm an African musician, and I love playing music. I do this for a living. You know who I do a show. You know who's at my shows? I said this on camera before. You know who my biggest population loves to come out to shows? To hear authentic, organic African music? European people. I gotta trick y'all. I gotta pull you in to listen to some African drums. Not everybody, but y'all know what I mean. The masses of our people of color. So we got some things we're dealing with, and it's controlling your senses. But that music, once that music starts, they go into that trance, the African comes out. It seems like all the Native Americans start coming out. They start to huddling around in circles, and you start jumping, and a concert look like you don't know if you at concert, you at church, you don't know where you at. For a minute, everybody up there jumping. They ain't even think about what their religions are no more. It's like, you know, I'm this, I'm that. So yeah, put some music on. We'll find out they're all Africans. Right? So we came and we went into a disassociative state to survive. Now, can I erase this? This is for the, I always say this is for the sisters. This is something very important in dealing with African psychic trauma. If you want to change the traumatic situation, let me just go straight in. I was going to read that, but I think I need to just keep going. That's going to take a second. Well, actually, 60% in the way they say it in biology. 60% nature, 40% nurture. 60% of your characteristics are already ingrained in your DNA. Everything about you is already implanted in your cellular memory. The other 40% your mother and your father or your caretakers bring out of you by teaching you to what? Speak, getting you to walk, right? So if your cellular memory holds, your DNA, your cellular memory holds the information about you, then that means there's things about you that are still in your subconscious mind waiting to come out. In the book of Leviticus, it says that the spirit is in the blood, right? Well, if the spirit moves through the blood, that means people that existed 25,000 years ago are more prevalent today than ever. You are your ancestors. Are you with me? You are your ancestors. That's you. And all of the people that ever existed are still with you. And they made sure that you what? Got here. So that means there's a program that is still operating, waiting to be tapped into. Y'all with me? Are we clear on this? So, I can go around the room. I'm going to have some fun with this. Name one of the favorite things you know how to do that's a talent.
Make people laugh.
Make people laugh. So comedy, right? Sister, you need a chair? Okay. Comedy. Something that you do very well that nobody taught you. Dance. Comedy, dance. Something that you do well that you don't need nobody teach you. Huh? You're a builder. Comedian, dancing, builder. I'm going to keep going around. Music. Produce music. Okay, that's all right. Same thing, music. Okay. Give me some different stuff too.
Writing.
DJing, music, writing. Good. Okay, we got the musicians. I'm one too. All right. Comedy, dancing, builders, music. Huh? And environmentalist and writer. Right on. I got another one. Writer. Keep going. It's genetic. No one told you to be a builder. You just stepped up and said, what? I am. I do things like this. You know how I do. I gotta interact with you, right? You being a dancer is genetic. That's something inborn. No one gave that to you, did they? Genetic. Genetic. So that means the ancestors made sure that they inscribe certain things within your character every time they are born over and over again so that they can what? Accomplish their will and get out of African psychotrauma. Because can't nobody outdance you, nobody can outbuild you, nobody can outwrite you. It's inborn. It's what God giveth that no man can take away and no man can what? Give it. It's the key. And that's the one thing we got to realize. That's something you already have. It's yours. And that's the key. Your talent is the key to unlock the door to power. If you try everything else, you know, you say, I'm going to try to do it like they did. I'm gonna do it like they did it. I'm gonna set them there shiny. I'm gonna put on these nice suits and I'm gonna put them. I don't think so. I can't do it like that. That's not rocking with my genetics. It's not rocking with my flow. So I gotta do it the way I know how to do it best. Right? He's a builder. He's gonna build the way he knows. He's gonna learn the basic structure, of course, but he still has his own rhythm to go in. And everything else that we talked about. Are we good on that? Now, we done went over, so now we know how this was done, right? I'm gonna read this to y'all. Y'all gotta, can I read? You got to hear this. Your church doesn't want you to read. Page 266, Father Sarah and the Skeletons of Genocide by Jose Ignacio Rivera. Yeah, this is a deep one right here. So all the Native American brothers and sisters, are we here together? Yes. This one's for us right here. So I want you to hear it. I'll go straight to it. Okay, I'm just going to go straight in. The revolts. The San Diego Revolt of November 4th, 1775 is famous in that the Kumeyaay people revolted against the strict discipline of Father Sarah's missionary vision. Several villages were united to assist their sovereign dignity, led by two Kumeyaay neophytes, Carlos and Bernardo. Now, neophytes are people that are brought in new to a particular belief system, right? Neo means new. And what happened was, these inquisitors, these inquisitionists, Catholic priests, when they will come in, when they will start doing enslavement of our people, the first thing they did, along with having the military attack and cause psychotrauma to the tribes, was that they would implant their religion. Now, family, there's a lot of sick stuff that I really don't like to, we done talked about some of this, but there's some sick things that went on that they don't like to talk about. But I know what they are, and they use certain words to hide. The neophytes, these young people, these young Native Americans, were taken by the Catholic father, forced into Catholicism, and they fought back. They got tired. Now, according to the story, he didn't force them into the religion. But he forced these young people into this religion, and they fought back. I'm going to show you what happens. All right, I'm going to read it. Carlos and Fernando. And a letter written at San Diego to Fernando Rivera y Macanda, dated October 5th, 1776, and what the apologists claim to be Father Sarah's letter pleading for leniency towards the rebellious Indians, we get an insight to his concept of forgiveness. It seemed that the best way to carry out the orders and will of His Excellency, the Pope, would be to promptly and energetically set about capturing the most of all the missing murderers and the one who was in command of all the enemy forces, or anyone else who you may know enjoyed or is now enjoying a privileged position among them. You should assemble them together with those you hold prisoners, and by means of an interpreter, lay the case vigorously yet clearly before them. First of all, you should make them reflect on the great amount of evil they have done, then point out the severe punishment they deserve, and the undisputed power which our King and Lord has to wipe them out of existence, and indeed they deserve. This is the mind of a Catholic priest that enslaved your ancestors. Their whole thing was about wiping out your indigenous memory. If they could not do that, you had to be murdered. Point blank. That's just one part of the evidence. There's more. Especially from an indigenous perspective, the clergy and the military worked hand in hand to control the native Californians. Contrary to the apologists, Father Sarah was not above calling out the soldiers to receive runaway neophytes. Now, he didn't say runaway Native Americans. He said runaway neophytes. That means people who were already been psychologically doused in the belief system, who already had knew from being in it, I don't want nothing to do with it. And what's the number one thing that the Catholic Church is in trouble for? Say it loud.
Homosexuality.
What do you think he was doing with the neophytes? Sadomasochism, whipping and flogging. And today your little girls like to listen to songs saying, whips and chains, oh how they excite me. Deep-baited. Let me say this again. The devil's a liar, boy. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that, man.
You got more seats?
Oh yeah, I got more seats. Can you use the seat system? The neophytes were being raped. We can't fathom that was happening, can you? You would never think that that was happening. Oh, so all of a sudden today, all the Catholic priests are just fondling little children. They doing that today, but they didn't do it back then, right? Changes the whole picture, don't it? Because see, I told you these people deal with some very sick stuff. Whipping, flogging, torture, rape, right? These are all techniques not just to control people, to break people's spirits. That's the surface. That's the giving. But when you're a spiritualist, an occultist, and I have no problem saying that I'm an occultist. I don't care. I'm an occultist. I study secrets. It's my job to. If you don't study secrets, if you're a person that want to know the truth about something, and you're not willing to go into the deep depths and study secrets, then I don't know. You need to find something else you like to do, because that ain't for you, right? So, whipping is used in dark magic. Sorry to tell you this. You don't know what I mean. You don't know what I mean. Okay, let me explain it to you. The oldest book of spell casting and demon worship is owned by the Pope. You can write down the name of the book. The occult practices of the Catholic Church. It's called the name of the book is called Papal Magic by a European guy named Simon. It's a book this thin, this small, and it goes into the occult practices of the Catholic Church. The first grimoire, meaning the first witchcraft book that Europeans were using, one of the largest and biggest book that they had was called, the grimoire of Pope Honorius. The grimoire of Pope Honorius, one of the oldest popes in the Catholic Church, who had a book of demon worship. The popes will practice something in secret called Black Sabbath, where they will sacrifice babies. And they will actually use prostitutes in rituals. You hear about those? Oh, we're going to go into some investigation now. When you hear them stories about prostitutes ending up dead, found somewhere, and you keep hearing about prostitutes and people missing and prostitutes. Well, back in old Europe, they were taking prostitutes and doing rituals, sacrifices. The name of the book is Papal Magic by Simon. It's a real book. Yup, they always been doing it. Yeah. They fantasize it when they do it. They call you a criminal when you do it. It's the grimoire of Pope Honorius. Honorius.
Is this the same Simon that wrote the Necronomicon?
Yup.
Spelled like
that book is even more trippy. The best book he wrote to me was Papal Magic. Necronomicon, I read through the Necronomicon. It's be careful with books and symbols. Some stuff you gotta be careful. Thank you for bringing that out. Yes, it's the same Simon, and it's a European guy. And like I said, they tell you this. They tell you about themselves all the time. So when you hear about somebody whipping somebody, sadomasochism. Hello, do I got anybody out there that's a little bit of rough to sexuality and practices? Because this is what they did. Whipping was a way to break the spirit. Once you break the spirit, then you can enter a spirit and implant a spirit. Flogging, same thing. And in this situation, they would make Native American people, African people, flog each other. I'm going to read it for you. I'm going to show you what these people used to do. Torture is to change the nature of a person through pain. Rape, to take the spirit, or to break spirits. If you ever get into studying the idea of what we call dark magic, I'm not going to call it black magic, because I'm a black magician. But if you ever get into studying dark magic, there's a book called Black Magic by Everett, he's a European guy. One of the things they tell you is that these are all the things that are practiced by Satanists. This is what they practice. And they have been so cunning to have our daughters and our sons sing music and songs that celebrate. And we don't even say anything. We just go right along with it. Can you imagine if your little girl came home and was singing, "Whips and chains inside me"? I wish I would catch somebody sing that around me. A little girl, a little boy, I wish I would. Nobody says anything. Was it exciting for our foreparents to have whips and chains on them? Why you want to make us celebrate that? Why would you put that in music for some children to sing? Here's why. Because they're getting ready to start back up chapter 6. Once I know that you will not fight back, you will not be cognitive, you won't do anything different, I can lead you right back to where I had you. These were all techniques used in causing trauma to people. When you burning somebody, when you talk about burning a body, burning things is also a part of deep, sick-ass magic, dark magic. And that's why I say we as a people are dealing with spirit. In the book of Ephesians, when we say you're dealing with what? Wicked forces in high and low places. That's what we're dealing with. We talking about some money. What would you do? Hey, I give me enough money, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, right, okay. You still think the same, so I don't give a damn. What's the point? So these things were done. Let me go further. So when this man tells you he's a neophyte to a Catholic father, and you know that these Catholic fathers have a history of molesting people, just think about what could have been happening to these young men, these young women. They ran away for a reason, and it was beyond just one simple reason. We keep going. I'll go to the next letter. This is another one from his letter. I am grieved exceedingly that Carlos and Bernardino's continue bad conduct. I have a particular affection for them and long for the salvation of their souls. With that end in view, I would not feel sorry no matter what punishment they receive. This is some sick, twisted stuff, ain't it? If they will commute to prison for and stocks every day, since then it would be easier for them to die well. Okay, so it goes on. I just want to read this one part. I'll read it later. It's going to come out. Oh, here it is. Well, I'll just say it, because I know it's in here. Father Sarah would never whip the slaves. He would never whip the Native Americans himself. You know what he did? He instructed the rest of the neophytes to whip the other neophytes. Does that sound familiar? Black on black crime. Because black people, Native American people, people of color, people of African origins, melanated people, will always whip and kill and rob and murder each other like it's nothing. We don't value ourselves as being sacred. I am not trying to tell you not to value European people sacred. I am not telling anybody to go out and beat anybody up. But I have a question. Why is it that we will always inflict violence on each other like we have no value of each other? Or if we're instructed to go to war to fight for a country, go kill off a whole other group of people we don't know nothing about. We never met these people before. They never did anything to us before. And we will go over there and kill them. and I'm talking about black and white people in this country, killing innocent people. But yet every day someone can insult your intelligence, take your living rights from you, take natural resources from you, and we won't even say a word. Psychotrauma.
Right off the Barnary sub-stop, Philadelphia, PA. Shot so loud you would think it was a club spot. African Americans, although we all over the web, we the hood librarians. We ship to prisons too. We reach out and deliver to those that's bitten too, but it's more than a bookstore. You want it, we got it. Mixtapes, DVDs, and culture products. Black and Nobel got our hands in a lot of projects. We welcome all to come build. The energy is positive. Every member of the team is awake and conscious. Come through and experience this place of knowledge. They say they'll put it in a book if they wanna hide it from us, but we got them books so you can buy it from us. Something to read while you on a train or riding the bus. Get your read on, food for thought, get your eat on. Black and Nobel, I buy my books at Black and Nobel. Black and Nobel, I buy my books at Black and Nobel. Black and Nobel, I buy my books at Black and Nobel. Black and Nobel.